Hello guys, it is Luke, Ninja Cameraman, back with another vlog, another overseas vlog, but not ninja related. I am out in Portugal for the OCR European Championships 2025 and recording all of the action for the Brits here at the Championships. I think the last 2 years we've been to Germany and France. They were both obviously ninja competitions. This is not any of that. It's OCR related. Basically, we've got a large focus of it being the 100 meters, but also other distances. We've got 3k, 5k, 15k. But my particular focus for coming out here was for the 100 meters race, where we qualified and are basically competing with the best in Europe to see who, if any of us, can become European champion. Well, when I say we qualified, so yeah, as it turns out, I didn't actually qualify despite my, I can't even say my best efforts, my feeble efforts to show up to competitions, then get ill and not do them, or just ones that I did do just wasn't good enough. I did look at other options. I did look at the 3k. I did look at trying to be a wild card for the 100 meters, but none of them were really an option. So really the only option that was left available to me then was just to simply make the decision to come out here and film as many of the athletes as I could. And I think this is probably the last you'll see of my ugly mug in my hotel room, because it's probably just quicker and easier to just talk over the runs, and also it's just too hot to keep filming. So one of the big factors behind thinking about how I wanted to structure this was how it would make sense for everyone watching this. So I figured the best way I can do it is for my regular subscribers and viewers. I'll just try and just give it a sort of generalized basis and understanding, so you guys know what's going on. And then for the obvious OCR, Ninja, and just everyone else that was out here racing, a more detailed description of the results. So the OCR Championships taking place here in Lisbon, Portugal, at this stunning former Olympic arena, or certainly looks like an Olympic arena, in searingly hot conditions, was made up of a variety of different race formats, the 100 meters, 3k, 15k, and essentially it's mixed into a variety of different age groups, ranging from, I think, just 10 years old, I want to say, all the way up to 60 plus. And on top of that, there's also an elite category. But obviously it was a great opportunity to compete alongside a wide variety of athletes that I know very well, I'm very close with, including people like Ninja Nigel Leeming and Alex, both who have been regular members of these vlogs previously, especially Nigel, amongst others. Actually, there was a huge variety. You know, we had people like Jacob, who's been in multiple seasons of Ninja Warrior UK, who took a huge interest in this. People like perhaps more modern ninjas that have really shown up in the last, who have arrived in the last 3 years. People like Tommy Matthews, Jonathan Hunter, Izzy, and then Beth Lodge. She's obviously another long-time ninja athlete. The first 2 days had to be spent doing qualification runs. Basically, in terms of the 100 meters, it was just a straight run through the 100 meter course. But essentially, you would race. It didn't matter really who you were racing alongside. All that mattered was your time. You had to put in a time quick enough to get into the set qualification bracket, depending on your age group. I think for the vast majority of them, it was to get into the top 16 or have one of the 16 fastest times. As I say, it varied depending on age groups. In terms of just a quick rundown of athletes that were successful. There was quite a few on the UK side, and I got a decent chunk of their runs. On the youth front, we got people such as James Percy, someone that I've known for quite a while now. Logan Hands, Charles Wardrop, I think was one, and Henry Seal, a young athlete that I've competed with several times in the HC Fit Liverpool competitions, and someone that I helped support to make sure he got out here, because he is looking really, really good amongst the under 16s. Beyond that, we had people such as Izzy qualified. She wasn't entirely happy with her runs, but she did qualify. Charlotte Wardrop, also on the girls. Jack Andrews amongst the 16 to 19 year olds. Amongst the 20 to 39 year olds and the females, there's people like Lindsay Young. The male side, I think there was quite a few here. Johnny, Jonathan Hunter, Jacob, as I said earlier, Tashawn Smith, another. Just on a little side note, actually, as well in these qualifying runs, you could choose obviously who you wanted to race against. So a couple of the guys were having their own little head-to-head battles, even though it didn't really matter. But it did lead to a couple of funny instances that I just wanted to highlight. The first one being Izzy did her second qualifying run alongside Nigel when he did his first. So you had literally polar opposites of youth versus experience. You know, Izzy being 18, 19, I believe, and Nigel in his 60s. But actually, it turned out to be a reasonably close race. Izzy didn't completely run away with it until the very end. The other one that I needed to highlight was caused more so by a rather unfortunate prediction by Dean beforehand. Got two of our boys coming up, Johnny and Tashawn.
We will have here.
Get the cameras ready to go.
How do you think they're going to do?
I think Johnny might have this.
Okay. Whoa!
In the man, and we will have
No, Johnny!
woman.
Yeah, so Dean slightly got his prediction wrong in the battle between Johnny and Tashawn. Johnny had his slip-ups, but fortunately, as we said earlier, it didn't cost him, as both he and Tashawn managed to get through. You also had people like Dean Cheatham, who's been competing for a long time in the ninja scene. He was representing in the 40 plus category. I think it's called the Masters category. He comfortably made it through with his time. Ninja Nigel Leeming, of course, representing for the 60 plus category. He managed to pull through. And then on the elite front, I think for the most part, people were successful. People like Katerina, Beth Lodge, Shyla, Mila Stanzani, all qualified. Oh, and of course Tommy Matthews. He managed to put in a record clear time. It was, I have to make sure I get this right, although you'll be seeing the footage on the screen now. It was a 25.009, which was a European 100 meters record at the time, and he was pretty darn happy with that. A little bit disappointed as well, because he could have gone even faster if he hadn't whiffed the buzzer at the very end, and then confused all over again after the run is done, because it then dawned on him that he'd set the record time. Tommy!
What was it?
25.009.
25.009.
This is it.
That's a new European record.
Yeah.
Woo! Took it from him. Soko. Oh yeah.
Despite that though, things weren't all smooth sailing. There was a few athletes that sadly did not get through. Probably the most notable one for me being Alex Arndt, who just didn't have a time quick enough to qualify for the knockout rounds. And then there was Becky, who unfortunately got injured. This was unbelievably gutting, since I saw her quite a few times throughout the championships after this. She injured herself on a dismount on one of the platforms, and like dislocated her ankle. I can't remember the exact injury off the top of my head, but basically it just ruined her entire championships, and it was just absolutely gutting to see. Fortunately, she was all right, but obviously not enough in any way to be able to carry on competing. And here we have Ninja Nigel Leeming, the most prominent member of the vlogs aside from myself. Although it's been
to win a medal.
He's going to win a medal. Is that by default or?
That's that's my prediction.
Oh, that's your prediction.
Also by default.
So it's going to be a correct prediction.
Yeah. Well, I have to finish the course first, so I don't want to jinx anything.
Okay. Maybe take the specs off as well.
Yeah, I might take them when I run, and there's sunshade. It's a bit warm here.
Yeah. Some people will literally do anything to get out of the sun and in the shade. But who's underneath this shade device?
Do you want to come in, Luke?
No, it's alright, my camera's... So guys, we got day 3 of competition. Today is where it gets serious. We've had 2 days of qualifiers. We had the 3K race yesterday. We've got a few athletes doing the long K, the longer distance race today, Nigel, Alex amongst the others. I'm trying to shout over the guy in the tannoy, so I don't even know if you can hear me through all this. But yeah, qualifiers will now be done, and we'll get to the serious stuff in the 100 meters race from today. I'm just going to spin us round. I'll see if I can come find some athletes, and we'll get ready for the races. So he may be one of the heavy favourites in the 100 meters, but apparently Tommy hasn't expanded his skills yet to bring a spoon or a knife or a fork with him to eat his pasta. So he's resorted to eating like an animal. And if he wins, then it works.
You know it's the way.
So today for the 100 meters, the main focus was on the last 16 races. Some of the age categories automatically went through to the quarterfinals, so they didn't have to race today. So there wasn't as many races on this third day, but we did still see plenty of action, and for the most part we saw success. None more so than in the 10 to 15 male category, with James Percy, Charlie Wardrop, Logan Hands and Henry Seal all coming through in their races. James was pretty comfortable all the way through. Charlie's was a little bit closer, it was neck and neck, but he managed to pull through at the finish line. Logan, he was pretty smooth all the way through, and Henry absolutely crushed it, but was still disappointed at the end. He was desperate to try and get an under 30-second course run throughout the whole championships. Beyond that, the 16 to 19 year olds, Jack went through almost by default because his opponent was a no-show, but he still had to do the race and crushed it. Sadly though, for Maya Kotaraska, for the 10 to 15 females, she unfortunately didn't get through. Her opponent was just that little bit too fast, and she was eliminated. Then moving on to the adult males, we had 3 very different races. Johnny Hunter and Tashawn Smith both got through. Johnny just managed to stay that one step ahead all the way through with his opponent. Tashawn, similar thing. He was controlled, did a really solid job, but sadly for Jacob, he was eliminated. This race was phenomenal. Neck and neck, back and forth. Jacob maybe got off to a slightly slower start, then he pulled it back, then his opponent came back, and then they were neck and neck going into the wall. And hopefully I get his name right, I think it was Luca Ranzato, an Italian, just managed to pip him at the line, hitting the buzzer on top of the wall. It was a phenomenal effort by Jacob, but sadly did not end in success. We also had Dean Cheatham. He was looking strong. He had a strong showing yet again for the Masters and was through to the quarterfinals. And then we came on to the elites. This is where things got a little bit more tough. The elite female side, Katarina, unfortunately her opponent was just really solid, a Polish athlete. She was just that too quick. Beth, the Ninja champion, she fought back after a bit of a slow start, and it was really close at the end, but tragically it was just not enough. And then Shyla was also eliminated as well. She, I know, was really disappointed, but in her defense, she did run the long distance race earlier in the day, so she was likely very tired from that, so I think it's pretty understandable. Then after all that, we had Mila step up after 3 Brits in a row all eliminated, and it looked like it was going to be 4 when Mila slipped up on the balance beam, but against the odds she pulled it back. She nailed everything after this, and she won it at the finish line to make it through to the quarterfinals. It was probably my favourite race on the 3rd day, and it was just a brilliant effort. Then came the elite males, and it was 1 success, 1 failure, sadly. On the success side, Tommy, once again dominant. He cruised through his race to make it into the quarterfinals, but sadly, Ollie was almost the exact opposite of Mila. It was so close throughout the whole race, arguably couldn't have been closer, and then initially at the finish line we couldn't call it. It looked like Ollie had won it, but sadly he missed out and was eliminated. We are here for finals day, guys. We got a lot of British athletes, a lot of British representation here for the finals for the 100 meters. So we're going to find out just how many of them, if any of them, can take the gold in their category, and yeah, going to try and cheer them on and film as many, if not all of them, as possible. So let's go. Let's get into the action. We had 17 different athletes representing the UK across the various age groups coming into the finals day for the 100 meters. So it's fair to say there was high hopes with so many different athletes through to see multiple medals and, of course, if we could, gold medals. Unfortunately, this is where things started to get a little bit more difficult for our UK athletes. James Percy had a bit of a slow start. He was always chasing, and then he had an unfortunate slip on the cliffhanger. Charlie Wardrop had pretty much the exact carbon copy identical thing happen to him. Logan Hans, his race was actually quite close, but then a double slip up on the rings meant he was eliminated. If you fail the same obstacle twice, I think you get automatically just an automatic out. And then Henry, this was the most gutting one because of how good he has looked throughout the champs so far. His slip up came right at the start when he, of all things, tripped on his shoelaces. So he was already on the back foot right from the first obstacle. He fought back as best as he could, but unfortunately it was not enough. Then we saw Izzy Baskerville and Charlotte Wardrop for the girls. It was tough for Izzy. I think she just struggled to get into a rhythm. One big factor of that, of course, has to be the heat. I've sort of mentioned it already. Charlotte, she had an unfortunate trip, I think, just before the rings, and she was chasing in her race anyway, but that was just basically the final nail in the coffin. Lindsay, again, it was just tough. It was just tough to get into a rhythm, is what it seemed like. She'd done the longer distance racing as well. On the male front, things were a little bit better. Tashan gave it a really good go. He fought back from a slow start, but then he missed the rings as well on the dismount, and that basically just put way to any hopes he had. But Johnny, it was a hugely close fought battle, but he did manage to fight his way through the quarterfinals into the semi-finals. For Dean, sadly, it was another person slipping up on the rings. He didn't fall, but he lost a lot of time on the rings, and ultimately it was too much to make up. Then the elites, we had Mila, who continued her dominance as the comeback queen. She looked like she was behind the whole race, and then she stole it right at the finish line, getting up the wall quicker to book her spot in the semi-finals. And then we had Tommy, one of the heavy favourites, if not the standout athlete on the UK front so far in the 100 metres, but he was knocked out here in the quarterfinals. He just took on an insanely super tough opponent representing Israel, and it was a close fight, but it was just too much for Tommy. Well, that left us with the semi-finals. Johnny, it was neck and neck. It was unbelievable how close this was against a guy in Robert Bandos, who's a name I haven't heard in a long time. I competed with him at least once, maybe a couple of times, at Dion's old ninja comps way back in the day. So it was incredible when I heard his name come up. He came through against Johnny in the semi-finals, and then Johnny unfortunately didn't have enough to get through the third place match to win a bronze medal. But in defense of Johnny, he had run every single race format throughout the champs, so he was just a Goliath for the effort he's managed to put in. And then Mila in the semi-finals, she had been the comeback queen up to this point, but it was one comeback too many in the semi-finals, just a little bit too far, a little bit too much to make up, and sadly she could not make it to the finals. And then, like Johnny, she couldn't get the job done to get a bronze medal. Despite her best efforts, her opponent was just too good. So all of this makes it sound like we've had a pretty rough showing here. Again, I think you can't ignore the impact of the heat. One thing I had noticed was a lot of the athletes, particularly the youth athletes, were having slow starts, just not getting that explosive launch off the start line, which I'm sure is something that they'll look at in the future. But, you know, you've got to take into account the heat, the multiple number of races you're doing in the 100 meters, especially on this last day, having to do multiple races in one go. But things were looking tough for the UK athletes. However, there is one competitor whose name I haven't mentioned that was involved earlier, and that man is Jack Andrews, because Jack was the shining light amongst the 100 meter athletes. Despite everyone else dropping out, Jack managed to get through his quarter-final match to begin with against Liam Levi from Israel. It was a close run thing, but Jack managed to slowly eke out a lead more and more and made it through to the semi-finals, where he then had this bizarre incident to begin with where his opponent jumped the start, one of the rare occasions where that happened. But fortunately, that did not faze Jack as he went up against Baptiste Glor from Switzerland. This was probably the closest race of all the races that he was involved in on this last day, but as with his previous races, he managed to eke out the ever so smallest of leads, and that was enough for him to pull away, and a solid run up the wall. He was in the finals, and I can't work out if he was happy or unhappy about that. I'm not sure if he was pumped for getting to the final or if he was annoyed because he missed out on a record time possibly. But either way, Jack was in the final, and now he was going up against the Italian Alberto Miotti. And bizarrely, this was the most comfortable of all the races Jack had. He managed to get an early lead, and he never looked back, and his opponent, in the end, couldn't keep up with Jack and had a slip on the cliffhangers anyway, as Jack roared to victory to take the gold medal for the UK. Amongst all the dropouts and the disappointments, Jack was the shining light, and he did all this despite having an injured ankle, which made it even more incredible. It was such an incredible performance by Jack, and I could not have been more proud of him. Bizarrely though, it was almost as if Jack's success then suddenly opened the floodgates, because we then had more categories or age categories that I'd completely forgotten about, which led to more success, including, of course, my man Ninja Nigel Leeming. He got in his qualifier, or his qualifying time from the previous day, which was enough to get him into the final, where he won his 60 plus veterans category to take home the gold against his opponent from France. We also had success in the adaptive categories, or the para categories, Chris Harris, a man I've known for several years as well, took home the gold for the UK alongside a fellow UK athlete in Harrison Hendricks, so there was gold and silver there, whilst another athlete, Dylan Darby, was in the third place matchup, but unfortunately did not make it to the finish line first. It was a close race all the way through, but he came up just short. Now, considering this is the European Championships, it would be wrong of me not to reference the various other categories we had, because obviously there was way more than just the 100 metres. So I'm going to try and shout out a handful of results from what I know. There was a wide variety of medals, not just gold, silver and bronze, amongst athletes including Dawn Jollies, Jamie Jean, I've already said Harrison Hendricks, he managed to get another one in the 3K format. Henry Jeffrey, amongst the under 13s, I believe, took a gold medal. Jonathan Hunter, I'd already mentioned him earlier, he'd done all of the race formats. He took gold medal in his age category for the 3K race. Alex, she may not have qualified for the 100 metres finals, but she did take home a gold medal in her age category for the 3K, as did Ninja Nigel in the 60 plus male, comfortably taking home gold. And then perhaps a little bit of a surprise to himself, Jacob, who I mentioned earlier, Jacob Peregrine-Weller, maybe surprised himself here with managing to take home the first place. I'm not sure if that actually led to a gold medal or not in the open male category. As I say, because it was the open race, I'm not sure if medals were handed out for this, but he did come home in first place by almost 2 minutes. In terms of the longer distance race with the 15k, we also had Alex Young take home a gold medal in the 45 to 49 year old male category. Whilst there was more success for Nigel with a double heap, himself and Andrew Durrance took home gold and silver. Andrew taking gold, Nigel taking the silver for the 60 plus males in the 15k. Oh, and actually, before I forget, just quickly going back to the 100 metres, we also took a bronze medal in the team relay. There was a shortened format for it, with the team relay, which included the likes of Tommy Matthews and Beth Lodge amongst the team that managed to get a bronze medal for the UK. And when all was said and done, that meant that despite some struggles in the 100 metres, the overall performance of the UK meant that we finished top of the medal table in terms of gold medals. 13 in total, and an overall final total of 20. But obviously, using Olympic rules, gold decides the leaderboard, and Team UK or Team GB came out on top with 13 gold medals. Overall, my experience of the championships in Portugal was one of immense joy. Aside from the competition side of things, just the general opportunity to hang out and catch up with such a variety of people, spending close time with Tommy and Johnny and their various groups that were staying together. But then also rekindling old friendships like I did with Jacob. I spent a lot of time with Jacob on the trip, and that was a huge amount of fun. The international flair, seeing a lot of new faces, including actually a couple of surprises with the Americans. We got to meet Enzo De Ferrari Wilson, who was over here watching and supporting. From the competition side of things, I think the biggest takeaway I had was the incredible amount of youth athletes we've got competing in all the different race formats. It's just unbelievable to see how many different incredible young athletes we already have in this country that are only going to get better and better. And also, just the opportunity to relax doing other things. We got to go to the world famous aquarium in Lisbon, supposedly one of the best, if not the best, in the whole world. But overall, I have to say, I absolutely loved this trip, and I hope that I get the opportunity to do this again. I will be doing this again soon in November for the Ninja European Championships, which I think will be very different in Poland compared to the heat of Portugal. But I absolutely loved this experience, and I would absolutely love to do it again. and I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. This is a little different to what I normally do with the vlogs. This is more just a race results format style vlog. But if you guys have enjoyed it, please let me know in the comments. Like, comment, subscribe, and hopefully I will see you again soon for another one of these vlogs in the near future. Thank you guys, and goodbye. What is this we've got? We've got gold,
We got gold, my dears.
gold, silver,
And the winner,
bronze.
the champion,